Rolling tape. Ten second.
I'm Bruce Apar, and this is Frank J. Rich, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. And then it comes back, and then I'll say a couple more things and introduce you. You should see the dairy show up in your name. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Chase Media Group, publisher of The Penny Saver and provider of multimedia marketing solutions for an omnichannel marketplace. And we thank our CEO, Carla Chase, and my co-host, who also is the Chief Strategy Officer for Chase Media Group, for putting us up on the show every week. You can also see us on YouTube if you search for Townlink TV. And there's a lot of shows from the past, actually going on 2.5 years now, with all kinds of different topics and guests. And Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is a community affairs program where we endeavor to bring you interesting people from the community and all of the communities in this region, in the lower Hudson Valley, who are doing really interesting things and contributing to the quality of life, and that we think you would want to know about if you don't already know about. And we're really happy to have on our show Liz Baldwin of Shunpike Dairy in Millbrook, right, in Dutchess County. And I know Frank has been patronizing Shunpike Dairy now for a while, and that's how we learned about Liz. And Liz, I know on your website, which is shunpikedairy.com, the dairy's been in your family for three generations? Or?
3 generations, yes. Yep.
So it goes back to your...
Yep, in the 30s, the farm was bought. It was in my husband's family. It's been in there since the 30s. We've been continuously milking cows since then. With conventional dairy until 2010, when I started the raw milk business.
Oh, wow. Oh, so that's been, so it's only been since 2010 that the raw milk...
Yep, I became certified to sell raw milk and just sold the raw milk.
Right. I think that's sort of how you found it, right, Frank? Were you looking for raw milk, or yeah?
Yes. I mean, the quick story is that I have a friend who I work with in business areas for some years, and he just gave that up and went to the farm in Vermont and started milking cows and producing raw milk and cheese. And we'd go up to visit him, and yeah, there it was, raw milk. Never heard of it, so to speak. And it was delicious, and from that point on, I was always looking for some supply of it in the area.
And so is that the only place you can buy raw milk? Is that like a dairy farm? Or?
You can only buy, in New York State, you can only buy raw milk directly from the farm. So everybody that buys my milk has to come up to the farm to purchase it for themselves.
And is it regulated that way? That
Yes,
you can only buy,
that's
so
New York
so
State
it
law.
cannot be bought in retail stores, raw milk?
Not
No.
in New York State.
Right. And I know we were talking about that you go through a certification program,
Yes.
right, with the state, and
Yes.
what is that, the agricultural department of the state that
Yep.
regulates that?
New
or-
York State
Yeah.
Ag and Markets, yes, I had to apply for the certificate. They come and they inspect, and they have all kinds of construction requirements. Having milked there for 70 years, it seemed a little odd that all of a sudden I needed to go through months of changes. But I did change things around just to accommodate a fewer number of cows.
Right.
So and then they come in every month and they take a sample of the milk and test it to make sure there's no pathogens or things in it.
Right. I mean, is that costly for you to do that? To
That
comply
doesn't
with
cost me anything.
to comply with the regulations.
No,
It's not something that really.
To get the certificate, the original, the the first test cost me a little bit, but no.
Right.
No.
And how many cows do you have in there?
Right now I'm milking 22, and then I have another 10 or 15 young stock. We always raise all our calves and replace the herd with our own young stock.
And again, in looking at your website, you do that twice a day, right? You milk
We
them
milk
in the
the cows
morning.
twice a day, yes.
And was it 6 a.m. and
6 a.m. and 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah. And so, how many people on the farm do you have doing that? I guess
Well,
your
actually,
family does it, right?
Originally, the reason I decided to do the raw milk really was because dairy farming, it's such a labor-intensive job, and I was alone, and had all the cows, so I had to hire help. Finding help to keep help, pay help, it was very difficult.
Right.
So I actually sold all of my cows.
Oh.
And then I wanted, it's one of those things, once you become a farmer, you want to stay a farmer.
Right.
So I knew that people came to the farm all the time asking me if they could have the milk, and legally I wasn't allowed to give it to them, but I thought that this would be something that would really take off, and it was something that people would really want. And I figured I had nothing to lose. If people didn't come for it, I really wasn't any worse off. So I figured about 5 cows would be sufficient to supply the
Demand.
need.
Yeah.
And so I went about getting the certificate and opened up my doors. Now I could advertise. Quickly found that 5 cows was not going to be enough because the people came.
Right.
And but still, it was small enough. I had halved the size of my herd, and I had halved the labor involved in taking care of the herd. And I had my website talks about stress-free cows. So all the sort of stress on myself was taken out of the whole thing, and it just became a lot of fun, and it became doable. And so I got the whole thing established, and lo and behold, my son became interested. So now I've passed
That's
it over
great.
to him,
Right.
and he's doing it. We're milking this morning 22 cows,
Wow.
and by this afternoon we may not have any milk left. We'll have to get the next milking in. So
You sell the same day?
Oh, yes.
What you?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's as fresh as it gets, isn't
it's
it?
as
Yes.
fresh as it gets.
I mean,
Frequently people come, I have the jars on the farm that you can buy when you get there, or you bring your own container. So you fill it right there. I don't pre-fill anything.
right.
But frequently people will come, I'll say it's still warm. Your milk is 5 minutes old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how, like with refrigerated raw milk, how long does it last compared to pasteurized?
Well, I tell people a week. I
Right.
figure if people are going to come every week, they should take what they're going to get in a week. I've had
Right.
people tell me that, we went away and it was in the refrigerator for 2 weeks and it was still good.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, is that your experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing about raw milk is raw milk doesn't go bad. Raw milk sours, so you can continue to cook with it. You can,
Right.
you may not want to drink it if you don't like the sour taste, but
Right.
it's perfectly good to, continue to cook with.
Great for bakers.
Yeah.
Turns into buttermilk.
I mean,
okay,
there
yeah.
becomes a time when you don't want it,
Right.
Store-bought milk, it completely depends. They have different pasteurization processes. They now ultra-pasteurize milk
Right.
for extremely high heat for really short periods of time. I think some of those shelf lives are like a month. It's kind of
Right.
scary.
And what about the retail cost, let's say, to the customer, comparison of raw milk to store-bought pasteurized milk?
Well, I mean, dairying has been trying to make a living on a conventional dairy has always been a problem because we
Yeah.
can't regulate our price.
Right.
I can set any price I want. I've tried to make it reasonable at $6 a gallon. I think at Cumberland Farms you might be able to buy it for $3 a gallon, but you lost all the good stuff.
Right. Oh, you're saying regular milk at
Yes.
Cumberland Farms, yeah. And if on your website, if you bring your own container, it's
It's $6 a gallon. You would buy the container.
okay. That would be
Yeah.
And if
it's $3 a half gallon.
okay, right. And how much milk do you get out of a cow a day?
Well, it completely depends on the stage of lactation of a cow. A cow in my herd could give anywhere from 8 gallons a day to a gallon a day.
Right.
As soon as they've had a calf and then they start to give milk, they're gonna peak, and they could give up to 8 gallons a day.
And it says here, there's a lot of things that we saw in terms of background on raw milk, and it seems there are some misconceptions, including, as we were talking about before the show, that are promulgated by the Centers for Disease Control that I guess erroneously makes it sound like raw milk can cause problems. And when other research shows that it's much, much less prone to create any health problems than a lot of other things that you eat, right? That a lot of other dairy products. But just one of the factoids I found interesting is where it says during pasteurization, more than 50% of vitamin C is lost in milk. Things like that I don't think people realize, right? When they're drinking milk, they're drinking processed milk anyhow.
I think historically, the way milk was transported, before there were good ways to refrigerate it, before there were easier ways to transport it, there were a lot of problems with milk. It was not handled properly.
Right.
But today, I put the milk on the cow, it goes directly into the storage tank where it's
Right.
immediately refrigerated. It's never exposed to the environment. There's very little chance of any kind of bad bacteria getting in it.
Right.
Once you take it out of there, if you heat it and kill all those enzymes that are all the things that are so good for you,
Right.
and they're doing that in an effort to kill the potentially bad bacteria. But the
Right.
chances of that being in there anymore in the modern dairy is really
It's very low.
very
right.
small.
Right.
Doesn't that go to the issue of what you feed the cows or what's in the pasture, and how that contributes to combating bad bacteria?
I promote the stress-free cow. I think the environment, we're very calm. The cows are handled very gently, and they're sitting out on a nice green grass with the sun shining on them all day long. They've got the natural, what they naturally would eat, which is grass. It's not a big high grain diet.
Well, let's stop there for a moment, because this is an interesting thing. You can go into the supermarket and get some cheese, which is called, I think, Happy Cow cheese or
Oh, yeah.
something like that.
A laughing cow.
Laughing cow, that's it. And
A laughing cow is a happy cow.
the friend I referred to earlier is a fellow who on his website says continuously, a healthy cow is a happy cow, or a happy
Absolutely.
cow is a healthy cow. And he makes a big deal of the fact that the cow's level of contentment is a significant factor in what they do and the kind of product that they deliver. So the milk from a cow that is under stress it can be affected adversely. Is that correct?
Sure,
How would you describe that? It seems one of these sort of like anecdotes as opposed to something that really occurs.
Well, anytime we stress our bodies, we're more prone to any kind of disease.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So, anytime we're pushed beyond our limits, we're prone to more disease. But a happy cow is the market would make a dairy farmer want to produce as much milk as possible. In today's market, that's what the conventional dairyman needs to do. They need to make as much milk as possible. So we push every cow to its limits and beyond its limits. And in an effort to, for the labor intensity, keep the cows inside. We don't want to have to move the cows back and forth and continue to bring them to where they get milk. Just leave everything confined. In those kinds of environment, it can get dirty. There can be, diseases, that way, just, without movement of air, any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But in a smaller dairy on the family farm where more cable, especially now with the smaller numbers, let them go out. I don't need to push them. I don't need to feed them. Production is not my goal. Flavor is my goal.
Quality, yeah.
And you find that in France and different places where they make those really fancy cheeses, it is exactly what is that grass. Which kind of clover, it really, the exact feed. Some of those things we can't even grow in this country.
Right.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they're on grass as opposed to, grain, manufactured food.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. This fella I was referring to also makes cheese, and it is important what the cow eats according to the kind of cheese that he's going to make. And so that makes a difference. But that's great, a great analog.
This can change daily,
Yeah.
the flavor. And in the winter, it's going to be different than the summer because
wow.
in the winter time, I'm feeding hay, dry hay that, it's been produced on the farm, but it's a different.
It's a little bit like wine, it sounds
And
like.
And the milk is then
Absolutely.
less
Yeah.
creamy in the winter time than it is in the summer.
Sometimes.
Yeah. sometimes, but not always. Yeah.
It just depends. You know, early spring you go out. You know, sometimes, you know, they used to talk about onion flavored milk because, you know, those onion grasses
yes,
grow
right,
early
yeah.
in the spring. and
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And how many acres do you have, Liz?
I have 188.
100. Has that always been the same throughout the generations, or has it changed over the
no,
years?
the
or-
farm has always been 188. We rent about 100 acres of other land to do the hay and stuff.
Okay.
And that's just to feed the cows.
And there's been a diminution of the number of dairies, right? It says, I think on your website, is it that it says it's like now only 5 dairy farms?
Well, that's the town of Washington, yes.
Oh, that's in just one town.
But in
yeah,
Dutchess
right.
County, it's down to like 40, 45.
And what is that? Is that it's technology, the economy?
Pretty much the economy.
Yeah.
It's a very tough business to stay in, and it's so, you know, the kids don't want to take over anymore. It's too hard. There's nothing in it. There's no money
Right.
involved.
And then what else do you sell at the dairy farm in addition to the raw milk? You sell other dairy products as well? Or?
I don't, because New York State only allows me to sell the milk.
Oh, that's it. That's all they allow you to sell.
I don't make cheese. I could make cheese,
Right.
but out of raw milk, I can only make 60-day aged cheddar cheese.
Right.
So I don't. I mean, I could do other things, but it would require a whole different certification process.
Right.
I have given a plot of land to a woman who does a garden. So we have a vegetable stand there now.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So people can come and get vegetables. And I also sell eggs,
Right.
which I don't have the chickens because I don't want the cross-contamination. I think chickens have some weird things. But, you know, you keep the chicken things where they are, but people, you know, eggs and milk just go together.
Right.
Yeah.
And how I mean, this may sound like a funny question, but, you know, it just occurs to me, like with cows, for example, how much do they sleep during the day? Like, how many hours are they awake?
Oh, they're always asleep.
Yeah, that's what I would think, yeah.
When you see a cow laying down in the field just chewing her cud, very happy cow. That's what she's content doing, and the more I see that all day long, the better.
Oh, really?
They're also creatures of habit, so you try to bring them in and put them out and milk them and do everything the same time of day.
But when you see them chewing their cud, like you're saying, are they sleeping or are they awake?
Depends.
Hard to
I
say.
think, you know, they sleep with their eyes open.
Right.
You know, they don't lay down. You know, they don't sprawl out or anything. So.
Right. Do they snore? That's the question my wife would ask.
Do they snore?
Oh, I used to. I don't anymore.
This is what, rationalization here?
I don't know. For all I know, when I sleep, maybe I chew my cud. I mean, that's possible too. I don't know. But I also thought it would be interesting for the audience to hear. I mean, as I don't have to tell you, you know how small school children love going to farms and seeing the cows milked and things like that.
I am very fortunate to have a wonderful location. I'm right on Route 44 in the Shunpike, which is, you know, it gets a lot of traffic by
Right.
it, and pretty much just by chance, when I decided to do the raw milk, I needed to go out and get more cows. I still had some of my young ones left, but I came across a woman who had a herd of her pets, but it was a mix of the breeds. So I have brown Swiss, I have a linebacker, I have Jerseys, I have Ashers and Holsteins. And so I always invite the public to come in. They watch the milking, they see everything, and I can introduce all the different breeds of cows to them, which, whether or not it's important, I remember when I was in school that, you know, the different breeds, but I really didn't have an idea of what it really was.
Right.
But I've really become it's like a tourist attraction,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
And the cows being as gentle and calm as they are, little kids, I can let little kids come in and put the milkers on and you know, they milked a cow and
Oh,
then
really?
they get to drink the
But
milk
isn't
from
also
the
it's all
cow.
done with machines now, right? I mean, it's
Oh
not,
yeah, but it's still, you know, you're right down there, you got to we clean the cow, you know,
Right.
clean the cow's udder before you milk it and then put the machine on, and
right.
yeah, they love it.
No, that's extraordinary. Do you know, you're making something of an educational opportunity for people at the same time, which is great.
Biggest highlight is when they get to feed the calves. They just
Now,
yeah.
do you get different milk from different cows? You mentioned you have different breeds of cows.
There's
Does a
different-
linebacker deliver a different milk than a...
Typically, a Jersey cow will give more cream, but less milk. A Holstein cow, which is why most American farms are Holstein now, because they're more volume. and like I said, the market wants volume. So the Jersey, you see it, other farm, it's more of a cream.
Right.
So I have a blend.
Yeah.
But there is, I mean, if you go on my website, there is some talk about A1 milk and A2 milk, which is from different breeds of cows.
Yeah.
I have actually had people come in and ask me for milk from a specific cow.
Yeah.
They want the brown Swiss milk
I see,
cow.
yeah.
Oh, really? Well, I'll never forget. I don't think this is unique, but when we were little kids, and my older brother Robert were passing a farm, and of course, I think a lot of kids say, does chocolate milk come from brown cows? You always have that question. Like, is the sky blue?
It does, doesn't it?
Why is the sky blue? And does chocolate milk come from brown cows?
It does, doesn't it?
Does it?
So is there a difference between raw milks? Is raw milk, or is there a difference?
All milk that comes out of a cow is raw milk, to start with.
Right.
The product that you're drinking, I think, is going to completely depend on what the farmer's feeding the cow, how the farmer treats the cow. I think we can have a raw milk dairy on a feedlot, a 300 or 500 cow dairy that wants to sell raw milk. I think you're going to get a completely different product than you're going to get
From
me.
yours, yeah.
I think a lot of people, the word organic means a lot to them, so they can go to the store and buy organic milk, which is not raw milk.
It's interesting how, and Frank and I often talk about marketing and how words like that that start off as really genuine and meaningful become totally exploited and diluted. Organic. I mean, another one, and this is totally unrelated in terms of the subject matter, but it's really analogous. Is high definition. Now they put the word high def. I don't mean TVs that really are, but they put on all kinds of other stuff that are not high definition.
Yeah.
But once the word gets into the public consciousness, then there's going to be marketers who exploit it. And so it's interesting that you say. So you're saying if you see something that says organic, it doesn't really mean that it's organic, right?
Oh no, I'm sure it's organic, but it's not raw milk.
Yeah, but organic is used on other foods, isn't it? Now, I mean, I don't know how much that's regulated. Like, what does something have to?
Yeah.
What kind of what parameters does a food have to meet, for example, to be called organic? I guess that's the question.
Well,
There are
Right.
definite, and that's really why I never went to organic, because for my purposes, it just doesn't make economic sense.
Okay, right.
My practices are so close to organic anyway, and people call me all the time and they'll say, is your milk organic? I'm not certified organic,
Right.
but it's me or the store.
Okay, right.
Yeah, exactly. And your pricing model is not as accurate, actually, in terms of the actual practice of people in the purchase of milk. Yes, Cumberland Farms, there are none around here, might have milk very much less expensively, and even you can go to CVS and get fairly cheap milk. But for the most part, people, especially in this area, they're buying milk for $5 a half gallon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I mean, there are places you get a $3.50. That's one question I wanted to ask is what about almond milk? What do you think of things like almond milk? I mean, it's still pasteurized.
The reason that people are drinking almond milk, soy milk, all those reasons, is because they're lactose intolerant. They can't digest the milk that they're buying in the stores, and they become lactose intolerant. I always tell these people, just try it, because the enzymes and all the things.
Let's do that.
Right.
Either of you are lactose intolerant.
Right.
But with all the natural enzymes and things in the milk, you can now digest the milk, so you shouldn't have to go to any of those other. They're all just processed foods.
Mm. Wow, it really is.
That is amazing.
You do
That's
taste the
milk.
difference.
It's certainly, it's not gray water. It's
Right.
I mean, I drink it, so I'm familiar with it, but it's just amazing.
Is this what they do it in La Leche League? Anyhow, the other
It's been a long time since you had to deal with that, Bruce.
right. The other interesting, again, sort of debunking facts, I might call them. And you just mentioned lactose intolerant, Liz. And according to this information, it says 80% of people who were described as lactose intolerant by a healthcare practitioner can consume raw milk without a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's the enzymes. And you mentioned before calcium. calcium absorption.
Yes.
And I always used to be confused about why people were being prescribed calcium, why people were told, and I used to say, well, drink milk, drink milk.
Right.
Little did I know they're drinking the store-bought milk. That calcium's just going right through you.
Right.
You can't absorb it. You need the enzymes that are in the milk
And the fat.
to help you
Right.
to absorb.
It's like a catalyst, like catalyze.
Yeah, well, fat to help you absorb vitamins,
Right.
nutrients.
Right.
And the fat in the milk is what holds the it's the powerhouse of all those vitamins, and it's
Right.
not going to stick to your arteries and do all the cholesterol things.
Right.
In fact, some people's cholesterol goes down.
Oh, really?
Drinking
With
raw
raw
milk.
Really? Well, I could use that. I could use low cholesterol.
Two things
Yeah.
I wanted to mention before we lose time. Is one is my experience with the milk. So when I'm a milk drinker, and I have always been my entire life, and I find that the amount of milk that I have historically consumed would contribute to weight gain. Drinking this milk, which is creamier, helps me maintain a lower weight profile.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
it does. I don't know exactly why, but I can see the difference immediately. And all of the science in the world, and we have a lot of science here, I think fairly typically pales by comparison to the actual use model or the experience that you have. So tell us a little bit about what people say to you and what encourages you most about the use of your milk.
People have all kinds of health benefits. Acne, allergies, asthma, acne, colitis, any kind of lactose intolerance to be able to drink now.
Right.
Just general feel better.
Right.
And, people come to the farm, they're so happy. It makes me happy to be able to give it to them.
And so you find, like with families, I mean, do you have a lot of young families who are your customers?
Absolutely, yes.
And so the whole family drinks it, or is it just certain people in the family?
The kids will now drink milk. They never used to drink milk.
Really?
Now the kids love the milk. Yeah, it tastes good to them. I've had women who want to make a formula for their babies, and they want to use the raw milk, not regular milk, so they do that.
Wow.
Yeah, people want to raise their kids on it.
And the other thing, again, I know we've mentioned some of this already, but I mean, I love dairy. I love eating cheese. I love all kinds of
Sure.
dairy. I love eggs, and some of the information on the background data that we looked up is that it's saying when it comes to foodborne illnesses, dairy products are at the bottom of the list of offenders, only account for 1.3% of foodborne illnesses. And again, a lot of people, the received wisdom, so to speak, is that, dairy, you don't want to eat too much dairy.
It has no nutritional value in the minds of many people.
Yeah,
No
exactly,
nutritional value whatsoever.
Right. And yet they also will talk about, you always hear, like, the French who eat a lot of cheese and stuff, and then they tend to be fairly healthy stock, don't they?
They tend to be trim.
Yes, right. Yes.
Yeah.
The movement now, people want local. People want to know where their food comes from. People want to go to the farm. They can see the cows. They can see the environment. They can see what they're getting. And
Right.
they want natural, local.
And what do you, as we do have to close it up, what are your hours, Liz, where people can come by to Shunpike Dairy?
Basically 6 to 6.
Is that 7 days a week?
7
or
days a
7
week,
days a
yes.
week, right. So you have long days. I mean, obviously, you don't go to bed at 6
We're pretty
either,
much
so-
always there.
Describe your cash register.
My cash register is, put the money in. It's an honor system.
Oh, wow. That's refreshing.
Yeah,
that's as refreshing as raw milk.
So you go into the store, and there's the big tank where the milk is, and there are jars, and you can take a jar, and then there's a list. You write your name and what you took, and a box, and there's money in it. And you leave your money, and you take your milk, and you drive away.
Yeah, that's
and
right,
and
yeah,
you might
yeah.
not see anyone.
Right. Yeah, that's nice.
Which is pretty amazing. I mean, when I go up on Saturday mornings, it's like that.
Yeah.
And almost
Okay,
anybody
right,
that's ever
right.
been just for the first time will say, another customer came along and told them what to do.
That's great. Anyhow, I'm sure we could milk this topic further, but and by the way, this really is delicious, the raw
Yes,
milk.
it
So I think
is,
maybe
yeah.
you have a convert. I know Frank has tried, and I might actually go full hog this time. So, Liz, thanks. Liz Baldwin of Shunpike
You're
Dairy,
welcome.
and it's shunpikedairy.com in Millbrook in Dutchess County. Thanks so much. This was really interesting.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun as we finish drinking our milk. Thanks for watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk and milk. Thank you.